All right. Well, hey, everybody. Aaron here again with our second in our broadcast, our live streams, which is always terrifying because I don't know if things are going to work like last week. We had a big hiccup, but I think today we've got it. Now, here's my hope for today, that you and I, in all of these platforms, that whatever platform you're on, whether it's Facebook or YouTube right now, and probably would be more Facebook, but let's interact. Shoot some messages back and forth. I'll get them all. Of course, I'll have to ask Landon, sitting right here, what you're saying, but that's all right. So today we're going to talk about loving our enemies. Jesus talked about this in Luke chapter 6. Okay, Luke chapter 6, and so we're going to go through this. But I wonder right now what you think about loving your enemies. So if you've got any thoughts on this, please shoot them in the comments. Let's see, on YouTube it'll come up off the right side, and Facebook, I really don't even remember where those come in at. But anyway, we're talking about loving our enemies today out of Luke chapter 6. And I think well, there's this fellow who was a thinker, Walter Wink, and I really like his book called The Third Way. And in The Third Way, Walter Wink made this statement that really impacted me. He said in the future, now of course Walter Wink is dead now, but he said in the future he thought that the mark of true Christians would be loving their enemies. And you know, as we sit here in America today, and what's going on up in Canada and Ukraine and Russia and all of these different things right now, we can see that loving your enemy is something that we really, as Christians, as believers, as disciples, something that we can really make an impact with. So I'm going to ask you to consider this as a foundational part of your discipleship. This is going to be hard. What Jesus has to say, as I read from Luke 6, it cuts right to the bone. But that being said, let's start. Luke 6, 27 through 38. Now this is New Revised Standard, I believe. And okay, here we go. It starts right in with quoting Jesus. But I say to you that, listen, love your enemies and do good to those who hate you. Well, let's just read that one again. But I say to you that listen, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also, and if anyone takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you, and if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Oh, that's the golden rule, right? Do to others as you would have them do to you. And if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners, or as Jesus, in Jesus' terms, even awful people love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even awful people do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even awful people, the sinners, lend to sinners and receive as much again. But love your enemies. Do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for He is kind to the ungrateful and to the wicked. Be merciful, for your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. And the last verse, give, and it will be given to you a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, and put in your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. Luke chapter 6. Now, isn't that difficult? Isn't that difficult to hear? But I say to you, love your enemies and do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you and pray for those who abuse you. It seems like as Christian people, we often need to be reminded of that. Israel needed to hear that. Jesus, right? And of course, jump right in here, guys, with your comments and questions and thoughts and even disagreements. Shoot, we'll talk about them over the airways here. Or the internet waves, the digital packet waves. Anyway, so we have Israel, God's people, wanting to hear this. And if you remember the folks sitting around listening to Jesus, they were good Jews. And they were hoping that God would show up and do something. right? After all, they were God's people. They'd been praying for years that God would show up and kick those awful Romans out who were plundering them and hurting them and putting taxes on them like crazy, taking their land, killing their young men on crosses as revolutionaries. So these Jews that were listening to Jesus were, I could say a good many of them, were ready to hear this would-be Messiah guy say, we've had enough and God's on our side. Let's pick up swords and spears, go to Jerusalem, kill everybody so that we can have peace. I mean, when you put it that way, it's kind of silly, right? Kill everybody so we can have peace. It's kind of incongruous. It doesn't quite match, right? So these guys are all sitting around, maybe some women too, sitting around waiting to hear Jesus say this. They knew who the enemy was. It was Rome, Roman soldiers, Roman emperor, all of that sort of thing. And then Jesus, sitting here, says to these folks, I want you to love those people. Imagine the shock, oh, really? You can't be serious. You've got to hear this, that you need to love those people. Pray for those who persecute you. You really need to be a follower of Jesus who reflects the Father. And the Father is, well, like that verse said, good to those who are ungrateful and loves the wicked, right? He's good to these people anyway, even though they hate him. And so we need to be like that. So Jesus is telling these people that are listening, you know those Romans that are really persecuting you, you've got to love them. Well, fast forward ahead some 2,000 years, and here you and I sit, at least in the United States where we are, thanks to the miracle of the internet, well, not the miracle, the joy of the internet, you might be in some other country. But here in the United States, we're not suffering under violent oppression from an occupying force. And yet we still have trouble loving those people who disagree with us in a matter of opinion. Sounds kind of silly to me to say it that way, but Jesus was talking to people who were getting killed by sword and spear, Roman soldier, and he's telling them to forgive, love, pray for them, and treat them well. And here we are. We get mad when somebody disagrees with us on social media, and we fight and we unfriend them and we destroy their reputation. We talk bad about them. And Christian, we need to hear this. Loving your enemy is perhaps, like Walter Wink said, one of the greatest marks of a Christian in this century. Because all the world around us is engulfed in flames of disagreement and hatred and destroying things. And you and I, we are to be those who seek to rebuild, those who seek to reconnect, those who seek to restore what has gone wrong. After all, that's what God sent Jesus to do, to heal what had been fractured, what had been hurt. And we are sent, just as, Jesus said, as the Father sent me, I'm sending you. So you're sent to heal, to reform, to remake, to reach a healing hand out to those who don't like you, as am I. Do you pray for those people? Do I? I wonder how you're feeling about this right now. Landon, I'm assuming we don't have anybody commenting anything. Okay. Well, maybe next week you guys will jump in and we can have us a real good time talking back and forth here. But loving your enemies, it's hard to do. But let me say it can only be done with the power of God, the Spirit of God within us. So we need to pray for ourselves that we could do this. Every day, think, okay, I'm going to love that person. And every time that thought comes into your head about how angry you are, how much you don't like them, or when you see them, I'm going to challenge you to pray for them, to bless them, to seek their good rather than their harm. Right? We can talk all day about how we like to, sometimes the worst part of us is happy when things go wrong for people we don't like, or political parties we don't like, or opinions we don't like. After all, YouTube, where you may be watching this right now, you don't need to go very far to find vitriolic commentary people on both sides of opinions, all sides of opinions, condemning the other side, and all of this. But as a Christian, as a disciple of the living God, you and I have this joyous opportunity to love people, to love everybody, to heal, because, well, evil separates. In Christ's love, we can heal. So I'm going to challenge you to that today, and look around in your own life. This week, pray for one person that you think, well, you don't care for. Someone who hates you. Pray for them. And we also can hear the words of Jesus. He said, if somebody has something against you, go to them and make amends before you come to church. Remember that? That's in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew. Jesus said, if you come to church and you there remember that someone has something against you, go and fix it before you come before God he was saying the temple. So this is pretty big stuff, this relationship between people. And often in churches, we are the worst. We need to hear this. Love your enemies. Love those who disagree with you. Love those who hate you. Pray for them. Do not judge, for your Father is compassionate and loving to all people, even those who hate him. Jesus at another spot said he makes the rain fall on the good people and the bad people. Right? We're not the judges. We are not the judges of other people. We just let God take care of that. We relinquish and we forgive. We say, I don't have to have revenge. I don't have to have them pay for what they did to me. We just say, God, may you bless them. May you take care. May you know what the situation is. And we leave it there for God to take care of. So that's what we have for today. Loving your enemies. Very practical, right? And, great. Is there anything before I go into the next? Okay, nobody's here yet. So that part about you've got to love people more than those who just love you, right? Because even the awful people do that. I see this thing floating around the internet that says, people put it up like they're proud of themselves. Treat me right and I'll treat you right. And I love all people. Treat me good and I'll treat you good. Well, according to Jesus, you're being silly and stupid and weak, right? To put it bluntly. If we love those who love us, if we treat people well who treat us well, we're no better than anyone else. But I am a disciple of Christ. We are those who go above and beyond. We go above and beyond. Of course it's hard. Of course it puts us out, makes us uncomfortable. But you and I have to go beyond that. Forgive, move on, pray for them. Those who hate us, we bless. We don't wish them ill. I mean, man, you just can't get much more straightforward than that. Now, the only thing that remains is for you and I to do it. This week, do it. This week, think of someone who really doesn't like you and pray for them. What harm could it do? But what good will it do? All right. Well, if nobody else has anything coming in, I'll see you guys next week at the 5 o'clock hour for some streaming and discussion. It'll be interesting to see. We're coming up on Ash Wednesday, and then Lent, and then Holy Week. Should be a lot of fun. So like, subscribe, share with your friends. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.